Hey guys, we are starting Psalm 30 this week. The doodle that I chose for Psalm 30, this scripture has always spoken to me that though grief might go through the night, that joy comes in the morning, right? That there's always an end to our season, and that there's always hope in the Lord. So I love the way that he did this one, was that it's a coffee cup with just sort of all those flowers kind of coming out of it. That one, coffee in the morning does bring me joy, and two, that those flowers just represent new life and birth, and that there's more to come. So as always, I just want to remind you how I prep my pages. You see that they are a little bit hazy and white. So I always put down a layer of clear gesso, and then I put down a very light layer of absorbent ground. And what absorbent ground does is it makes any layer, any kind of substance, surface, become okay for watercolor. So once I put that absorbent ground over the clear gesso, it makes it so that it gets thirsty, so that it can hold those watercolors and it doesn't bead like it did on that one page. So, okay, here we go. Hey guys, so I'm just going to talk you through what I'm kind of doing here. So first things first, I'm just laying in my ground layer, my base layer on pretty much everything. So I'm not worrying so much about shading now or really anything. I'm just trying to get the first colors down. Because remember, we're always going to start lighter, and we're going to just work up layer after layer, and until we get the depths of the shadows that we want. Notice how when I came in on top of that yellow right next to the pink in the cup, I had to dry it first, because if I didn't dry it first, that yellow and that pink would have misbehaved and played together. So when I don't want two colors to do that, I have to be real careful about drying in between. If you have two colors next to each other and they're both wet, they're going to bleed into each other. So that's why I keep drying. You know, it on this video takes 11 minutes and 53 seconds, but I want you to know that it took me an hour to paint this picture today. I speed it up because I don't want you to just lose interest, but it's an hour of painting. So don't think that I'm like knocking it out this fast. Somebody said, "You paint so fast." No, I really don't. I take my time and I let it dry, and I just enjoy the process. So that's what I like about watercolors, is it kind of, you have to be slow and kind of intentional, and I enjoy that process. So okay, so now you see I'm starting to go in with a little bit of a darker. I'm starting to add in some depth. Kind of think about where your light source is coming from and where there's going to be shadows. So those flowers are going to dip over the edge of the cup and cause a shadow. What I'm doing right there is I'm just using water, and I'm extracting out some of the paint to get a highlight right there in the middle of the cup. So I say it every week, but remember that you can paint with just the water and manipulate the medium as you want. So see, adding in more, manipulating with the water where and how I want it to be. Somebody asked me last week, what brushes am I using now? So I have given up on the water brushes for the time being, just because I've spent so much money on the water brushes with a little bit of water in them, and I can't seem to get the flow that I like. It's either way too much or like stop in the page, or too little. So I'm using a size 6 here. That's a size 6 doing the bigger work, and then later on I'll switch down to a size 4 watercolor brush to get in some of the details. So size 6 and size 4 brushes. You see how as I'm coming back in now and starting to lay in detail, that it's starting to pop a little bit, and you're starting to see more of just the detail and just the different nuances and the different layers of it, the different dimensions of the little vase. Well, it's not supposed to be a vase, it's supposed to be a coffee cup, because joy does come in the morning when I come down and my coffee is brewed and ready to go. So the white of the daisy, that's supposed to be a daisy in my happy little imaginary world, but the white of the daisy, I have to just leave that as the white of the page. In watercolor, I know that you get a tube of white with your watercolors. I don't know anybody that uses that darn color. So just, it's easier to just take your white and don't do anything with it. The white of the page, let that be the white that you're wanting to claim. Did that make sense? Don't paint in the parts that you want to pop. Um, I'm just adding in some more depth and dimension on that little cup. Um, you know, I always come back in with colored pencils. When it's all said and done, I've got all the paint in. I come in with colored pencils to just give the final dimension of pop. You know, I do want to mention that I have, you see, I'm also dropping in a shadow there underneath the cup. This page, my binding broke somewhat. I'll show you in next week's video. On this page, when I went to take a picture or something like that, I've got a break in my binding now. So every single spread, I tape it with surgical tape, but it didn't hold it. So we're going to have to see what happens now as my journal keeps going, as my Bible keeps going. I'm dropping in that shadow of gray behind it, just to give it that dimension again, to make it pop a little bit. All right, as promised, here I come in with the colored pencils. You know, last week on the back of this page is the waves that we did last week, and that was a lot of mediums on the page. So when I start doing the lettering, this page is tired. I'm having a hard time getting my layering in because the page is just sort of exhausted from how much is going on the front and back of it. I pop in white with the highlights. So I've got that top of the seeds, the middle of the flowers. I've got some white kind of just pop in there to bring some dimension, and adding that pop of pow on that cup, so that it just stands out and it's just bright and fun. So coming back in, it's easy to go back in with the white colored pencil and a black colored pencil to add just the pops that you like. So kind of boring, just going on and going on. If you guys have questions, please ask, and I can answer them down below. If you like this and you're coming back every week and you're checking out the Psalms, please like and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it. It's nice to know that people are watching them and that people are getting into their Bibles and they're creating, and that they're just having this inner conversation with the Lord, and that you know, that this is worth it to somebody somewhere. It's just a nice thing to know. So okay, now here you're going to see, this is an indigo blue that I'm choosing to do my lettering with, because I don't want it to be that dark black, because you see I don't have black as of right now. I will come back in later in a bit and put in some black, but I wanted it to stay in that kind of blue realm. Oh, that upper corner of this sheet is just tired. It was hard to get that colored pencil to lay down. How are you guys doing with your lettering? Tell me about that. Do you guys want to see some more? Do you want me to slow it down next week so I can show you how to letter? I mean, tell me what you need to see and what's going to help you guys out as you're doing your weekly pages. So the joy comes in the morning. It's coming in slowly. This was a booger. My page was not wanting to do it. I'm dropping in, you guys know I always drop in on the right sides of the letters. I always drop in a shadow. It doesn't have to be the right side of the letter, but I always drop in a gray shadow, so that the letters feel like they're just on the page and they're weighted and not just hanging out. But it just kind of, you'll see right now, you see how they look like they're kind of settled in there. So this is my black Cristal, Cristal, Bic pen. It's a 1.6 millimeter pen. It's a bold, so it's Bic Cristal Bold 1.6, and it just writes over everything. So I just love it. I really do love it, because it doesn't dry out. Sometimes you can use a marker and it will dry out when you're trying to get it to go over different things. This guy just works and does everything everywhere. It doesn't have a problem writing on anything. So, you know, I always put in my little doodads and my little, like 2 little lines and all of my little cutesy cutesies. So, you know, I had to add those in. That had to happen. So, excuse me, I'm just adding in my detail work now, kind of outlining, and there, see, I'm putting in just an extra little line around it. There it is. I just think that's fun. It just sort of sets it off and makes it look sort of fun. Coming back in with the black pen and adding where I just put it with the gray, just adding in a pop of the black to get those letters to stick out and pop out. So you see how it works? So it's not a big thing, but it really does make a difference. All these little layers and all these little things do make a difference in making it look completed. If you feel like yours doesn't look completed, look at your colors. Do you just have the first layer down? Like, you know, are you going back in and putting on your darker colors and shadings and your highlights, and are you going back in and getting that done? Because in those shadings and the highlights, that's where your drawing really pops and really comes to life, or your painting. So maybe let it dry and look at it and see if you've got enough of that in there. You know, can you come back in and manipulate the watercolors so that you can bring out some and paint with the water and extract some of your paint. Keep going until you're happy. Just keep going until you feel good about it. So there it is. That's it, guys. Until next week, have a great week. Bye. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.